You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Welcome everybody to the Four Corners, brought to you by the Official Wrestling Museum. We are your hosts. I am Angel, and I'm joined by the Official Wrestling Museum's Hall of Famer,
No Life.
and we are here this week talking about
Rivalries.
So this could be any rivalry throughout all of professional wrestling, right? Any ones that we want to talk about. So this is definitely going to give that the opportunity to maybe hear something you guys really think about, some of you guys might not think about, and if you guys agree with us, let us know. If you don't, still let us know. We do have some that are rolling in about this show. We are going to air them next. We're going to talk about it next week with you guys, just so it's not every single show we're kind of saying something, you know what I mean? But we do appreciate you guys responding to us and giving us your input. So next week, make sure you guys tune in if you are already have written into us, and we'll definitely read them off for you guys as well. Also, make sure you guys check out Off the Ropes in coming weeks. We have a very huge announcement coming that I think people are going to be like, oh my God, about, and that's going to be something cool. RI Comic-Con is happening at the beginning of November here in Rhode Island. You guys definitely want to get on board. Mick Foley, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, David Arquette, they're all on the list to be there, which is going to be a really good time. And our cameras will be there rolling. Our handsome faces will be walking through the crowd. I'm just trying to see, they sent me an updated list, so I just want to see if they had anybody updated. Oh, and Dustin Runnels will also be in the house as well too, joining the party as well.
You know who won't be there though?
Who? Yeah. Let's send our respects out.
Yeah, James Earl Jones. He, you know, if we talk about Star Wars on here often, because I'm a Star Wars guy, doesn't know the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek.
I know the difference. One's a wall, one's a track.
I think when there's certain people that pass away, I think it reaches that status of pretty big news, and he's definitely one of them.
Yeah, and our thoughts and prayers goes out to his family, his friends, his fans, and you know, not because you said I don't know nothing about it, you know what I mean? But he did so much more than just Star Wars for the voice. He was, you know, do you remember him in Sandlot?
Oh yeah, he was the old guy.
Yep, I thought
who owned the dog. What was the dog's name again? Godzilla? No,
Babe Tobin.
Brutus. No, Beethoven was the big dog. That
No, well, he looked like Babe Tobin. I don't know. But I remember when that movie first came out, and I had to watch it a couple of times. I thought that was Mr. Huge.
Who's that?
Mr. Huge from WWE.
Oh, Mr. Hughes.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Not huge. Mr.
Well,
Hughes.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's a little hot in here. I need a
No,
drink.
he was also.
But that's who I thought it was, though.
He was also Mufasa in The Lion King.
Yes.
Iconic role. He was King Joffrey Joffre in Coming to America. That's probably my. Darth Vader, obviously, the voice of Darth Vader is my favorite thing he's done. But King Joffrey Joffre is right there.
And you know, he was
I am the
definitely
Royal
someone.
King of Zamunda.
He was somebody that could play multiple voices, obviously.
He's iconic.
But he could play so many different roles, and just the way he delivered his presence of his character speaks volume. A lot of what wrestlers do, and that's why we have that QR code on the screen so you guys can scan it to help us make a National Pro Wrestling Day. It's totally free to do. It takes about 10 seconds of your time. And we're trying to make our Rhode Island Professional Wrestling Day on June 13th a national day. So if you guys can help us out, get the word out there, tell people to do it as well too. It's on our website under theofficialwrestlingmuseum.com, National Pro Wrestling Day as well too. The more we get, the more we can take it to people and be like, hey, let's make this a legit thing. These guys have sacrificed their bodies, times from their families, and so much more. Let's make it happen.
No, speaking of sacrificing their bodies and stuff, who's the first sacrificing their bodies for these feuds? These
So
rivalries?
I'm gonna have to go with probably.
Now, are you just picking a random rivalry, or are you going with your favorite? Or, like for me, I'm gonna pick my personal guilty pleasure favorites, not necessarily what I think are the best.
Right, and that's what I think I'm going to try to do too. I think this particular one, people are going to say, well, no, it's probably one of the best ones.
Well, if it
ever
is, it
had.
is, you know.
But Bret Hart and Owen Hart.
Okay, I knew that was making.
Okay.
I
You knew that was gonna make
I knew
my
that was
list.
going to be on there
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, a fantastic feud. I mean, organically done. Like it didn't ever feel like manufactured.
Nope.
You could totally believe Owen being jealous.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a fantastic WrestleMania 10 match.
Yeah.
I know people will say Shawn and Razor had probably maybe the best match in the card. They had the caveat of having a ladder help them. Owen and Brett, I think, did have the match of the
Yeah,
night.
absolutely.
Then you got that cage match at SummerSlam 94.
Oh my God,
so
phenomenal.
good, so good.
And the thing with them too is, they were related, so you had that rivalry of wanting to one-up each other on a natural basis. They were able to bring that to the ring. They trained together. The storytelling was phenomenal, but they also kept it going outside the business.
Right.
And that's something that's lost these days. But they wouldn't eat at the same restaurant. They wouldn't ride together. They wouldn't stay at the same hotel. Like, they really did this character. And even when they got together back as the Hot Foundation,
It just felt.
it's
it
like,
was-
oh my God.
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't even built up. Like,
No,
I
it
mean,
was just-
it just
it's-
happened, and it
yeah.
was just. You know what? I could totally see two family members who have not talked for years, and then there's just that one moment where one guy is like, just how Brett did. I
Yeah.
love you, Owen. I used to, I love you, Owen.
They were-
they just joined up together. Owen, even though Owen kicked Brett's leg out of his leg,
Yeah.
remember?
I-
Yeah. So that's a great pick. I was talking with Stryker a little earlier on the way
Yeah.
because I was trying to narrow out who my fourth would be. I want to. So Brett's in one of mine, but I'm like, is he going to be in it, or am I going to make that an honorable mention? So I'm going to save it for a little bit.
Okay,
I'm going to go
okay.
with my favorite in-ring feud, Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko. I think.
Okay.
These two guys, best of friends outside the ring. But, I mean, their feud, their rivalry, I should say, carried over from ECW into WCW. I mean, if you want to watch a good wrestling match, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero don't have a bad one with each other. They had a rivalry, and I'd say rivalry better suits it than feud. Rivalry, because they just had matches. They had a rivalry against each other. They couldn't stand each other as far as in ring. Their characters. They couldn't stand each other. Malenko and Guerrero hated each other. In WCW, Malenko, they just strong dislike, and the matches were so good. And it's like, man, Malenko hates the Guerreros. And the matches were just, I can't say more than the matches were just so good. Like, you cannot watch a match and go, man, that match wasn't that great. Their worst match is probably better than most people's best match.
Right.
And that they never, I mean, until they went to WWE and they were the Radicals and stuff, they never let up on that Guerrero-Malenko feud. They always had that rivalry, and they had that great feud in ECW, the great set of matches that when they both were leaving ECW, they had the 2 out of 3 falls match, and they both got the standing ovation. I mean, that doesn't happen, and they got it. Usually, and especially when you leave ECW, most of the time, the crowd would be chanting like, you sold out. They did not do that for them.
Right,
That's
right.
the respect that they commanded. And just in ring, I think there was one time I was disappointed. They had a match at Starrcade 97, and I was disappointed. They were the opening match, and I was just disappointed. I think it might have been like a count-out finish. I was just disappointed in the finish, but that's one of my guilty pleasure feuds. Like I said, favorite in-ring rivalry.
And I think that was a really, the how they worked together was just unbelievable. two tremendously gifted guys, and as you were saying, they were good friends, and that's what happens when you're good in the ring. It's because you're good outside of the ring, you know. For me, so this one here wasn't anything to really do with wrestling. It had to do with mic work.
Okay.
And
Well, a feud and a rivalry kind of two. I think it's two different things, and a rivalry can just be two guys who will rival each other on the mic. It makes sense for rivalry.
and I'm gonna say Stone Cold and Vince.
Oh,
And-
that's as far as feud too.
And that's it's obviously a given.
Yeah.
You know, something like that as well too, like I picked with Brett and Owen. But I think it was just something perfect to establish the Attitude Era of what it was supposed to be. I think it was perfect for the times of how there was people feeling in the world that, you know what, we're getting walked down at work, we need to speak up for ourselves. I think it was a perfect thing to keep a show moving because they could easily plug that type of stuff in anywhere in the show. And, you know, Vince being the boss, easy. Austin being Austin and the type of character, the way he walked, the way he talked, the way his attitude, his persona was. Even when he was stunning Steve Austin, would fit. He didn't really change too much. It fit this series of going back and forth with Vince for such a long period of time. And I think it sold TV. I think it sold the Attitude Era. It's if you think Attitude Era, that's what you'd pop up first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think that there's no bigger feud in wrestling than Austin McMahon. I think that's when you think of feuds. I think that's the best feud there's ever been. So
Yeah.
I don't even have to elaborate on it. It's just it was maybe more over the mic and stuff, but I mean they did have matches though, and
They did.
but yeah, that's to me. Now it's interesting because I'm going to kind of let the cat out of the bag on what my other feud was going to be that I haven't decided yet, but I'm going to push it out there.
You gonna
Anyway,
push it out? Okay.
Austin and Brett. Now I'm not because you said Austin.
Yeah.
And one of you. Well, I don't know though yet. I'm going to decide if I want to talk about that one or if I'm going to make that an honorable mention.
Oh, so that one-
Yeah, that's
oh, okay, so that's
on
not your
hold.
pick.
But you mentioned
Okay,
Austin and
okay.
Brett, and I'm
So you got to put it out.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
I'm going with my guilty pleasures first, you know. So another, again, I wouldn't necessarily call this necessarily a feud, but a rivalry. For me, I loved Sting and the Great Muta over the years. Would I call it a feud? Not necessarily a feud, but they've always been pretty much rivals. They've teamed up a few times later on in their career. But since '89, they had a great match at Great American Bash '89. They were in the Thunderdome cage match at Halloween Havoc. And they always, to me, were kind of one and the same. Like, they were rivals, perfect. I want to say doppelgangers is
Okay.
the word I'm trying to think of. Like, Sting was the Muta of America, and Muta was the Sting of Japan. Even like when they joined the NWO, or like when the NWO angle was happening, in Japan, Muta was like the Sting. They were trying to recruit him. Eventually, he joined up. In America, eventually he joined up with the Wolfpack. So, but very similar in ring style. A lot of ways. Sting never did the moonsault, but just a great matches. They had a great rivalry.
No, you know, I agree with that. You know, they definitely had, you know, the thing with those two guys is that aura aspect to them.
The face paint and the mystery.
Yeah. And when you can put two guys together like that, and they knew how to play their characters so well, it was just that, oh my God moment.
And
Anytime they
yeah.
were, no matter if they did nothing in their match,
And
it was still that, oh my God moment.
I forgot to mention, I think a big part also of their rivalry was Gary Hart, who managed Muta. I think he played a big factor, because Muta couldn't talk. Gary
Right.
Hart had to do his talking. And the mystery involved in it all. I just think that they put on a great rivalry over the years.
Now, we all know rivalry, the feuds, they all have their own actual definitions, right? For me, I'll take a rivalry more as that edgy, attitude-y, than with a feud, oh man, I'm stuck in this, I gotta keep battling this guy to get someplace. That's how I process it for myself. Now, with that being said, my next pick, even though one would be, and I'm not sure if this is gonna be yours, and seeing that you already said Brett in that situation, I don't think. So an honorable mention would be Brett and Shawn Michaels feud. Okay.
I was wondering.
As
I
a
knew-
rivalry,
yeah.
I don't know so much as you
No,
know what I mean.
I would say, in my mind, I would think it would be more of a rivalry than a feud because they had a personal rivalry with each other.
They did, but I wouldn't use them as an honorable mention. I was like, what the hell just happened? I would use them as an honorable mention. For me, I want to say Shawn Michaels and Maya Jannetty.
Okay, wait. So wait, are you picking?
Shawn Michaels and Maya Jannetty is my pick.
Okay, so Brett and Shawn,
Shawn
is like an honorable mention. Okay.
Yeah. And the reason why I say them is it was so once Shawn kicked him through the glass.
It starts off with probably the greatest turn of all time.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I mean, to start off a feud that way, not to interject on you, but to start off a feud that way is fantastic.
Right.
You know?
And the whole process, I never felt that Shawn cared to do anything more with Marty because he already kicked him through threw him through the glass. I'm done with you. Oh, I got to deal with him again. All right, whatever. He was on. Kind of reminds me a little bit of CM Punk, Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm done with them, but I'm not, and it keeps going. With Marty, it's like no, like I'm getting you back for this. So the storytelling with that, I think, was really good.
I think the thing that hurts that rivalry or feud is just Marty Jannetty getting into trouble and being fired a couple times.
Yeah.
I think it could have been. And another thing too that really bothers me is so when Marty came back after almost a year after going to after jumping to the barbershop window.
Yeah.
You know, remember he came up. Shawn Michaels, Sherry had the mirror.
Yeah.
What bothers me the most out of this whole thing is they show Marty jump the rail and go in the ring. How much more effective would that have been if you only see the camera angle of the mirror and Shawn is moving and then you see Marty behind him.
Yeah.
You don't see him jump the rail.
Now,
Nowadays, that would have happened. Back
Right.
then, they, you know.
No, but do you say that as of today, or did you wish that back in the day? Because
I can't say what I wish back then.
you know what I mean.
don't know,
Because
but-
now it's how everything has progressed. You can think that way, and
Yeah.
you know, with us running shows and running trainings, you were thinking of all those different avenues. But back then, they probably didn't think of stuff like that.
Right.
And I do agree, though, that probably would have been a bigger "oh my god" moment.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know that I was invested into knowing what was going to happen, and I felt it.
And that was one that I thought about too. It's interesting because I'm going to go with one of my other favorite rivalries, feud. I would call this one a feud rivalry over the years, a guilty pleasure of mine. Now, you might be like, really? But I'll explain why.
Okay.
You said the Rock is breaking up. I think also another tag team that broke up very well, how the breakup was done, Rick Martel and Tito Santana.
Okay.
Okay, now they never really had like a blow-off. They never really had like a blow-off match. But they did have some matches with each other, but they never had like that blow-off at like a Mania or a pay-per-view.
Yeah, they really didn't.
The reason they didn't, no, the reason why this is so high for me is they might, you know, Tito forearmed Rick by mistake. Rick Martel took personal offense to it and all that. He's stupid. He's a loser. He's a loser. That Tito Santana is a loser. But the reason why this feud or rivalry is so high for me is that was at WrestleMania 5. They never got back together. 4 years later in a Royal Rumble, if Rick Martel was in the ring and Tito came out, first guy he's going for is Rick Martel, and they're going at it. You know what I mean? They always were against each other. They never, you know, and that's lost nowadays, I feel. I
think it is too.
I think after 3 months, every feud kind of resets. And it's like a guy's not going to hate a guy. Like, for example, Punk and Drew, I really hope they keep this forever. Not feuding, but just
Right. That
never,
edge kinda
never,
going back to
yeah,
it.
never ever do they lessen on their hatred for each other.
Yeah.
And that's what Rick Martel and Tito, they never ever, they always kept that same level of as if it was day one. So, I mean, no, it might not be the best rivalry all the time, but I appreciate that they always kept that. And I don't think that was something that the company did. I think that's something that they did on their own.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that like Pritchard was ever like, yeah, Tito, when you go in, go right for Martel 4 years after the fact. I think that Tito's just like, hey, you know, you get a minute or so to shine in the Rumble, the first thing I'm gonna do is go clean up Rick Martel, you know. So
No, that's not a bad pick. It really isn't a bad pick. And you're right. I think that has lost over the years, and I think that's what we're missing in wrestling.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you see all these guys do it, and it's like, okay, but like you're cool with this guy, but he put you through hell and everything
Yeah,
back in the
and
day.
I think that's why we're
why
picking.
were you cool?
Yeah,
You know
I
what
think
mean?
that's why it's hard to pick current or feuds within the last 10 years or so, or 20 years. Like I can't pick a Cena feud, or Cena and Edge, or Cena and Randy Orton. These could be honorable mentions, but they don't. You know what I mean? That they eventually team up together, and
Yeah.
and then they never ever go back to. Well, I can't stand. Maybe the only one is like, oh, I can't. Like maybe Bianca with Bailey right now. How she's like, I can't
Yeah.
be friends with her after over the last year.
Yeah.
But all right, we're taking up too much.
We're
now.
taking
Go
up
ahead,
too
pick your-
much. All right.
Yeah.
So
But rivalries, man, this is what
Yeah.
wrestling's about. So.
It is. So I'm gonna throw a name that some people probably don't want to hear, but
Is
it's
it the truth?
oh well. You know, hold on.
Hornswoggle
Our truth
and,
is absolutely phenomenal.
Hornswoggle and El Torito?
Our truths
Hornswoggle and Chavo?
few with the reality of who people are. No, I love our truth. He's awesome. Chris Benoit and Kevin Sullivan.
No, I mean,
And
that's...
just you could truly feel like when Randy Savage was doing it with Ric Flair at WrestleMania, you felt it some over Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah.
But with Kevin Sullivan and with Chris Benoit, you felt that edge, that rivalry. You felt they needed to keep them apart. You felt every aspect because it was all over women.
I
you
think
know?
what helps is you, like, even back then, you knew at least some of the story. And so it played into it, like with the Brett and Shawn thing, too.
Yeah.
Plus, they had great matches with each other, and their chemistry outside the ring, whatever. Inside the ring, they had great chemistry.
Yeah, they really did.
And yeah, that was one that popped into my head, like towards the top. Like I said, that match they had at Great American Bash '96 was one of the matches that brought me back into watching wrestling. So, yeah, that's a good pick. Because of shorter time, we can't go into it too much.
Right.
I'm at the position of, do I want to go with that Brett and Austin? Or the other one I was going to say was Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman. I wanted to pick that.
Okay.
I wanted to pick that because
You going with that one? That's really a good one.
I want to go. Yeah, I want to give love to Brett and Austin real quick.
Okay.
Austin was. I mean, it was so good. Brett was so good as. I mean, they turned. They did a double turn. Really a great feud. But I have to talk about Kaufman and Lawler real quick because I don't want to run out of time. But I mean, back in that time frame,
We gotta go quick.
yeah, it's too bad because this is probably one of the better feuds of them all.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, with a celebrity. Now, Kaufman wanted to do it in New York with WWF,
Yep.
and they said no. Can you imagine? I mean, I don't know. It's just like, can you imagine not doing that? Like, and then it gets dropped in Lawler's lap, and it was done so well. And like, Kaufman was built to be a heel.
Yeah. And you know what, Jerry, not to cut you off, but Jerry the King was one of the best people to do it with because Jerry can work and put over anybody. He has that ability. And Andy, if you were to just watch it from the very beginning, knowing what he was, getting into wrestling, you're gonna be like, man, this is gonna be a waste of my time. And he just nailed it. And
Yeah.
every single out in public, the neck brace, everywhere he went, he believed.
And then, not to be
unbelievable.
Not to be shortchanged on that was Jimmy Hart's role in that. So I mean, even and much like I said with Sting and Muta, these rivalries, some of them have maybe a third person in them.
We can honestly take these rivalries and have them be on Off the Ropes and do a whole show on just each individual
It was
one.
so hard to pick 4 rivalries.
Well, we need to pick our final 4.
All right.
Okay.
And again,
and this
there's
is tough.
I wanted to throw Dusty and oh man, it's just so
There's
hard
so
to pick
many.
4 rivalries.
Maybe we'll have to do another one of these.
Yeah. Like I said, I really wanted to throw Kane and it was Chris Jericho and No, it was Kane and Chris Jericho over the. I don't know. It's a joke, but never mind. Let's
Well,
pick out 4 best.
You know what? I will say,
Four.
though, official Wrestling Museum Hall of Famer, Big Boss Man and Big Show, that rivalry they had, as much as it's silly and stuff, they honestly took things to a different
Val
level
Venus and Kyan
and went back. Choppy, choppy, yo. Okay, we need to pick our 4. Now,
I think Austin and McMahon that's
all right, so we're going to go.
that's the best feud of all time.
So
Best rivalry.
Austin and Vince, okay? Now who are we going to go
I think
with?
Hoffman and Lawler.
I would definitely going to say that. We definitely have to go with it because if you can tie in the outside world of wrestling to wrestling and get it over such huge, and that's not, Logan Paul getting over, he's an outside guy. It's different than this because this guy didn't train. He was just literally, and he just played it 24/7 for the wrestling business.
I know my 2 middle picks were more guilty pleasures. I think when you think of an actual wrestling rivalry, Malenko and Guerrero, they never relented on each other. My opinion would be Guerrero and Malenko, and then Benoit and Sullivan. Because those Benoit and Sullivan one was a personal rivalry. Guerrero and Malenko was wrestling related, but they made it like a personal thing. But they're 2 rivalries at the top of their game, but for different reasons.
But then we got to talk about, you got Bret Hart and Owen Hart.
That's
that
another,
took that
okay.
to the
The
level.
reason why I
and
wouldn't-
you with that Tito Santana and Ricky, Rick Martel, not
Yeah.
Ricky. That was, you brought up a great fact. 4 years later, they're still at it.
Yeah.
This one is tough. All right, let's do this.
I think Bret and Owen.
Let's do
Bret
this.
and Owen is.
I'll pick one from your half. You pick one from my half.
No, I'd be fine. I'd be fine picking. I think Bret and Owen, maybe Bret and Owen and Eddie and Dean.
All right, let's do that.
The reason why I would
Because they
not
were-
say Sting and Muta is because they were rivals, but it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a blood rivalry. And the thing with Shawn and Marty, the thing that was just detracting from that is just Marty getting in trouble.
Right.
And it kind of took away from it.
Let
So
us-
who are the final 4?
Our finals are Austin, Vince McMahon, Andy and Jerry the King, Dean and Eddie, and Owen and Brett.
Okay.
Let us know if you guys think we picked the right ones. Let us know if you would have picked different final 4 out of the 8 we picked. Let us know if, I mean, you guys are crazy. You should have said these
How
guys
about
over.
Hogan and friendship, because every friend he had turned on him.
At least he took a smile-up challenge for the
let
museum.
me ask you this real quick, because we have about 1 quick minute.
About that.
If you could pick one woman's rivalry, because we didn't pick any women, I know.
So
if
you
could
did
pick
say that
one-
honorable mention, okay? I would probably say Bull Nakano and Alinda Blaze.
Okay.
Because for me, I was bought into that because
Yeah.
it actually felt like it was something real at that time for Alinda Blaze.
I would pick Gail Kim and Awesome Kong in TNA.
That's
They had a
another
real
good one.
But I do like like I said, Bianca not wanting to get with
Yeah.
Billy. That's that long story, long-term storytelling for me. But all right.
All right.
What
Thank
about
you.
midgets? No, I'm just joking.
Well, it's got to be the official Wrestling Museum's Hall of Famer, Little Louie. Or Doink.
Little all the
Dink.
midgets and King Kong Bundy.
Yeah, yep. Or Think, Wink, and Pink.
All right.
All right, thank you guys so much. Make sure you send in any comments you guys have, if you pick it or not. And you know what they say?
Come back next week and see what's in the corners.
See you next week, folks.